mean, we've always had dogs, and generally big dogs.
Yeah.
So at the moment we have 2 Leonbergers, which are
pretty big dogs.
Enormous.
Really. Yes,
They're in the same family as St Bernards and Pyreneans and Newfoundlands and Bernese mountain dogs. They're very, very friendly, and they have really good personalities. Yeah. Very, very cuddly and great.
Well, our daughter's got some chickens, as you can hear the cockerel going.
Yes.
She's sort of really got into keeping hens, and so we've got plenty of eggs.
And cows across the road that belong to the farmer next door. And at the bottom of the garden we have sheep and lambs. So it's always a pleasure to look out at them, especially at this time of year, because the lambs get into little gangs and run about and then start leaping in the air and jumping on top of each other and generally playing around, which is very nice.
I've got a couple of fish tanks which are quite enjoying sort of setting up and running, and sort of I used to keep tropical fish many years ago, and I thought, well, I'll try it here, because the water's actually quite soft here and it's quite good for discus fish, which are rather beautiful. So. I'm yours. I mean, we sort of give each other sort of criticism and things and help out, make suggestions. You think, well, that might work better if you do that and stuff, and so that's always good. And it's good to have a sort of someone else to kind of, either confirm what usually if you're asking an opinion, it's because you're a little bit worried about some part of the picture, and if you check it out with someone else, they can confirm that usually. Because I'll say, what do you think of that, Veronica? And she'll say, well, I like that, but that bit there looks a bit funny, or, and it's usually the bit that I was worried about anyway. If she doesn't see it, then I think, oh, that's okay, go away.
Did you ever pick something out that you're like, no, I'm completely happy with that?
Hardly ever, actually, I think usually,
Michael's much more tolerant of my criticism than I am of his. I usually get upset, but then after about half an hour I think, yes, he's absolutely right. But at the time I'm
yes, I'm not saying you want to hear it, is it?
No,
but,
especially when you think it's finished.
Yeah.
I've finished this piece now. I'm done.
1 53/100 behind for the year so far. We'll be looking for a little bit of a change tomorrow.
I think my favourite painting of yours is still Atlanta, the one of the barges.
Yeah.
It's a Venetian painting, but it's not obviously Venice. It's some barges on the water. And the light in it is fabulous, and the reflections
streaming light really
are just
fading.
It's just beautiful. I wanted to keep the original of that one, but Michael sold it.
Yes.
And
it
was a big piece, and it went for quite a lot of money. So nothing I could say about that really. But I have a print of it, so
and I think
that's something.
The one of yours I probably like best is probably the autumn leaves, the dark blue cloth and the sort of nice autumn coloured leaves on it.
I think that's about my best work, really. I really like that one.
I think
it's one of those I was saying that there's nothing in it that I would change, which is not normal.
It's not. Yes, normally when you do a piece of work, you're so wrapped up in doing it that I find I go, I think this is great. Oh no, it's terrible. And you come up and down all the time, and then you have to put it aside and leave it for a few weeks, and then look at it with fresh eyes and think, oh yeah, that needs to be done. That needs to be done. And then you leave it, and that's it. It's done. And then you see it again. Particularly if you have prints done. So, I'll see work that I've done years ago, but I've got the print still, so I can see it. So, and most of those you think, well, quite like that one, but I would change that and I'd do this to it and things, or I'd make that a bit warmer or colder, or, and nearly, 95% of my pictures are sort of like that, and then there's 5% you think, well, that's all right, I don't think I could do anything that would improve it as far as I can see. And that's great when you get one, oh yeah, that's all right, It's very, very rare, really. We really did printmaking.
Yeah,
because
we
it
had
was a way of
screenprinting.
making artwork that wasn't, you didn't have to have it reproduced, and you could make limited editions, and so have an edition of 30 or 50, and spread the cost so that each individual piece wasn't so expensive, but it was hand done, and that's what we did for, I don't know, probably about 10 years,
so,
maybe, yes.
From
and
sort of 1980 to 1990-ish kind of.
That's partly why we used to live in London. Both our parents lived in London. We lived quite near each other, and but time came for us to do. We wanted to buy a place, but we also needed quite a big place because we wanted to have a silkscreen press and a etching press in it, and there's no way you could afford it. We could afford it in London, so we actually moved out to Stroud in Gloucestershire, where the price of a one-bedroom flat in Barnes or Mortlake, you could get a 4-bedroom house, which provided enough room to sort of actually have the printmaking equipment.
The Cotswolds were cheap then.
Yeah, they were cheap then. Yes, and so we moved down to Stroud and. Produced limited editions, and we tended to rely on agents to sell them.
Yeah, we did.
We?
Yeah.
And so, because we thought the business side of it was beyond us really, and that they would take care of that.
Because of the type of subjects that Michael paints. It means that we've been able to incorporate some travelling into our work as well,
Yes.
which is great.
Yes, great excuse to go to Venice several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a fabulous city, and so even though it's very sort of crowded and things, massive tourists and people visiting, so you often you can get away from it by just stepping into the sort of back streets, and then they're much quieter, and it's just such a beautiful place.
There are certain routes, aren't there, that tour guides take people.
Yeah, everyone goes to Rialto and the
St.
market
Mark's
there.
and so on.
St.
But
Mark's.
if you get away from those central parts, you can find streets that are quite quiet. And the last few times we've been going in January, so that helps as well.
Which is a good time to go, because often it's quite sunny then, but freezing cold. But you get and it's quieter, so that you can go down the Grand Canal on the Vaporettos, which are usually chock-a-block, and you just stop there. But you can actually go from side to side and look at various palaces and things, and take photos and stuff.
Fabulous architecture, just
it's just
unique.
Yeah. That's certainly, I think, the most beautiful city in the world. My father was a marine artist, loved the sea and ships and sailing ships, and his main job was working as a scenic artist in films. So
before CGI.
Before CGI,
you had to paint it
yes, where if it was say like a view like that, but this was recreated in the studio, he would have painted the view out the window, and it would be hanging down behind it. And I remember often going to the studios when he was Pinewood Studios where he was working. I remember him working on a James Bond film, and there's a sort of Greek temple. It's the Matora in Greece, so they have these monasteries and these icons painted on the walls and things, which is what he was doing. And I remember seeing Roger Moore being jostled around in a helicopter across the stage about 100 yards away. 3 guys moving the helicopter, and it had no blades or anything, and he was having a fight in the helicopter. This was about 8 o'clock in the morning. And he also did work like making ships and things and helping design ships for the films, and he worked on things like Swiss Family Robinson and the Buccaneers and things. So I was always kind of around. He was painting his studio upstairs, usually late at night, but I'd always see, how's his work going.
All day at the film studios, and then he'd come back, have a nap, and then paint till about 2 in the morning in the studio.
A night owl.
Doing his actual paintings that he then entered into the Royal Society of Marine Artists in London for their annual exhibition. So he worked pretty hard.
He did, yes.
And he was often away, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, so for films, you'd sometimes see working in America and or down in Egypt or Malta, so and he'd be away for 3 or 4 months at a time working on, as a film.
Jamaica,
completed.
he went to.
Jamaica, he was there when doing Swiss Family Robinson, and the good film that we saw in the 60s.
And how many of the Bond films did he work on?
I don't know. I think he worked on several, but because they all tend to be made in Pinewood, or part of them have been made in Pinewood. So
yeah. Pinewood and Elstree were the 2 studios he mainly
Shepton,
worked
Boreham
in.
Woods. Yes.
Yeah. And the only time I went, he was working on this huge canvas that was a sky to go behind a scene, maybe behind the helicopter, I can't remember.
I don't know, but it was about...
but he was up on scaffolding.
It was about 80 foot by 20 foot or so, and there's scaffolding all along, and he was having to climb and do this painting.
Vast.
Amazing skill, really. That's always very impressive, isn't it?
And he was incredibly knowledgeable about... he knew where every piece of rigging on I don't know any of the names of the ships, 3-masted schooner, or a galleon, or whatever they're called. He knew everything about them. What was that replica one that he helped?
Worked on 2. He worked on the Golden Hind and the Nonsuch.
Oh yes.
Which was sort of reconstructions of sort of historic ships and things. I was very excited about the Mary Rose and that and discovery of things, but that was towards the end of his life, so I don't think he ever got to see, which he would have loved, but to see it actually on display.
I think you have to have talent and ability. You also have to have quite a good business sense, because there are quite a lot of people out there that can exploit you if you're not careful, and you have to have some luck as well.
Yeah.
And I think that it's always difficult, because you can be very, very creative and very imaginative, but if your work doesn't appeal to the public and you can't sell it, it's difficult to make a living, unless you get taken up by the art establishment, and that doesn't happen very often. It's hard.
I think maybe these days with the internet and things, maybe, and social media, there's probably outlets for people to actually kind of, get their work seen. I mean, that's the hardest thing really is finding places where your work can be seen, because there's no chance of selling until people actually see it, and then you have to sort of get into the whole sort of marketing thing about it. That's why we were doing shows like Chelsea Flower Show, because you get a concentrated thing of 150,000 people going in that week, sort of all going past your work. So chances kind of work out that the people stop and look at your stand. It's a small percentage, but that's enough, and that can work. And I think that's what artists just you need to kind of get their work seen really, because otherwise you just can't sell it at all.
I think we've been really lucky, haven't we, to be able to make a living out doing something that we love.
Yeah.
I think it's a great privilege to do that, because not many people have that. So I think we'd probably both really like to have a day with Vermeer, wouldn't we?
Yes, that would be quite something, wouldn't it? Or I must say I wouldn't mind. Yes, painting outside Monet would be quite an interesting one to sort of see him. Yeah, I think his work's fantastic. Or portraiture with Holbein. It'd be amazing to see him do stuff.
Or at the Moulin Rouge with Toulouse.
Toulouse-Lautrec, yeah. Yes. Combine a drink and a party. Yeah, that'd be more fun, yeah.